barrister and member of the Peace in Kurdistan Campaign Steering Committee, Melanie Gingell. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So we will be discussing the war in South Kurdistan today with you. So what, in your view, is happening, and what can be done in the UK to give a support to the Kurdish freedom movement at this critical time?
Well, this latest invasion into southern Kurdistan started on the 24th of April. And this is no coincidence, because 106 years ago to the day was the start of the Armenian genocide, a genocide that is still not acknowledged or owned up to in any way by the Turkish state. So this date, 24th of April, is of huge significance. It's highly controversial, particularly in Turkey. The Armenian genocide is widely acknowledged and accepted and marked internationally, and most recently by President Biden. So choosing this date to start the invasion into Iraq, into southern Kurdistan, it shows a very strong message to the Kurdish people. The message is, this is an attempt basically to exterminate you, to obliterate any assertion of Kurdish identity, any expression of Kurdish rights, and any Kurdish democratic aspirations. So the public stated intention of this military action is to remove the PKK from the area. But as we are seeing contemporaneously in Palestine, the stated intention is a cover story for a much wider and deeper attack against the people themselves. We've seen aerial bombardment of civilian areas, of refugee camps, and there are ongoing reports of the use of white phosphorus by the Turkish army. So in effect, chemical weapons attacks. So this is a genocidal attack, make no mistake. And the international community needs to react to it in that way.
Another very important issue is, in your view, why does the UK still list the PKK as a terrorist organization, even given a decision such as the ruling from Brussels High Court that the PKK is not a terrorist organization?
Well, the designation of the PKK as a terrorist organization is at the very root of the justification behind this genocidal policy. The label of terrorist is an incredibly powerful one, but it is one that's being increasingly interrogated across Europe. As you've mentioned, we've seen the High Court in Belgium rule that the PKK is not a terrorist organization, but a legitimate actor in a conflict. And it follows, the organization follows international humanitarian law. There have been decisions recently in the Council of Europe that call this status of terrorism into question. And most recently, there's an inquiry underway in the British Parliament now, under the auspices of the all-party parliamentary group on Kurdistan in Turkey and Syria, which is considering this very question. It's touching upon that question amongst others. And we look forward to hearing the conclusions and the outcomes of this inquiry, which are due very soon. So also in the UK Parliament, a motion has just been tabled calling on the EU, the UN and the international community to take immediate action to stop the genocide in South Kurdistan. It notes the plan to build a Turkish military base in Kurdish majority areas in Iraq, and notes that the aim of the invasion is to return the borders to those set out in the National Pact at the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. So basically, in effect, not only is the attempt genocidal, but is also a land grab. So it's an attempt to annex areas of Iraq and Syria.
Over the past months, Turkey's attacks against the HDP have continued to escalate. Only recently, the second part of the trial on the 18th May of 108 HDP members, including the former co-chairs of the party, has continued. What do you think these attacks and this trial in particular indicate about the state of democracy and the rule of law in Turkey?
Well, really, it dovetails into what I've been saying about the purpose of, the intention of the attacks in South Kurdistan. It's all part of this same policy to crush Kurdish democratic aspirations. I observed two elections in Turkey in 2015. The first one in June, where we saw kind of very peaceful approach to the election. It seemed like democracy was maturing in Turkey, and that this was the AKP government was one that was attempting to represent all sections of Turkish society. But as we know, that in that election, the HDP were phenomenally successful and gained 81 seats, and that dented, it destroyed the AKP parliamentary majority, and that sent shockwaves across Ankara. And we saw a second election, a snap election, just a few months later, the same year in November, where it was completely different. It was very highly militarized, highly tense election with, polling stations where there were tanks outside polling stations and so on. And since then, we've seen a horrific attack on democracy in Turkey. It's just every year it's got worse and worse, deeper and deeper. And since the coup attempt, there was the state of emergency, which was renewed and renewed. We've seen that Turkey has the highest number of journalists in prison in the world. I mean, this is extraordinary. So, and now finally we're seeing an attempt to close down the HDP, which is the third largest party in Turkey. It's simply extraordinary that this is what's happening in a country that's supposed to be a modern democracy. This is not democracy. Democracy is dead, basically, in Turkey now.
So you are working now as a member of the steering committee of the Peace in Kurdistan campaign. Can you tell us a bit more about the campaign, such as why it was formed and the work that you've done and you working on right now as well? I know you are very busy with publishing statements every day according to the developments in Turkey and in Kurdistan. So could you please tell us a bit more about the campaign?
Peace in Kurdistan was set up in 1994. It's been working tirelessly since then to support the struggle to get a peaceful political solution to the Kurdish question. Like in Palestine now, we believe that in Kurdistan, there can be no military solution. The state cannot achieve a just solution to this matter. It has to be a political solution. So the aim of Peace in Kurdistan is to support that, to try to achieve a peaceful political solution to the Kurdish question. And that involves a dialogue. That involves a dialogue with the Kurdish freedom movement. And at this time, that involves speaking to the leader of the Kurdish people, which is Abdullah Öcalan, who is still languishing in prison after all these years. So Peace in Kurdistan, it organizes delegations of representatives, politicians, academics, journalists, trade unionists to visit the region, to foster alliances, to build solidarity. We have lawyer networks to observe the political trials. We produce news briefings. We distribute information. We try to affect policy. We try to ensure that the real information is out there, the real information to try to counter the propaganda that's coming from the Turkish state, constantly. So we're trying to raise awareness. We're working, as you say, pretty tirelessly producing statements, very regular statements, and pushing for, a greater understanding of what's really happening in the region.
Dear Melanie Gingell, barrister and member of the Peace in Kurdistan Campaign Steering Committee, thanks for joining us, and thank you for your valuable comments today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.